Welcome to Soundbite, the podcast where we talk to interesting people in the Maritimes about their stories, specialties, and insights. I'm Caitlin Dutt, one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Tim Porter. Hey, Caitlin, you're back.
I am back, yes.
We missed you for a week.
Yeah, I mean, I heard John did a great job, so, I listened back to the episode, and I thought it was a great episode.
Yeah, he did. He did a great job. Yeah. So we're kind of going in a different direction this week.
Yes.
We're going back to the past.
Back to the past.
Not back to the future, but back to the past.
Yes. With Andrew MacLean, who we have here today.
I'm
very excited to have you, of Backyard History.
Hey, Andrew.
Famed podcast, famed book writer.
Thanks very much for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. And we've got a number of his books in front of us.
Yes, we do. We've been reading up on all of your books just to make sure that we have all of the interesting stories in front of us. You're also doing pretty well with your podcast as well. I think you just won one of the Excellence MB, I think silver in podcast. So
second place award for podcast.
Pretty good.
I have my own podcast. Yeah, everything's called Backyard History. We're going into a history of our own backyard here today. You can find that thing just called Backyard History Podcast. It's a bit different from your guys' format, though. There's a real emphasis on, I try and capture with my stuff that like maritime storytelling tradition, like how my grandfather would tell them up on the North Shore, but also with like a huge amount of like academic style research in it, so like quotes on it. So with my podcast, instead of me just like reading it, I got my friends paid with beer, voice actors and actresses here, to read these actual historical quotes as if they were in them, to kind of bring them to life. So, just to make it more lively and not have people fall asleep. But it had the weird side effect of attracting a much younger audience, just because it was kind of more like a play. So I'm talking like kids, which I did not think was in the cards for a, Maritimes local history thing, but
that's so interesting. I wouldn't have thought
things
that
are going to
either.
go, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess, I mean, in a way, I feel like after reading some of your stories, it's interesting to see that they're kind of, I feel like there's a lack of museum presence in New Brunswick sometimes, just because I feel like there's so many stories that we have to tell. And you can demonstrate, you've written 4 books on all of these stories that don't really appear in museums or anything. So it almost has like an educational aspect to it that I could see why kids would be interested in learning more about like history of our Atlantic provinces.
Yeah, I don't know. I try not to. I don't know, it feels like it's a weight on it to call it an educational and stuff like that. So if you do happen to get educated or learn something while reading the things, then that's well and good. But like I'm trying to tell it in like a fun, engaging way. Not that like, like I found history classes pretty boring in
Really?
school. Because I mean, the way that they tell it, it's like, oh, the French and the English were at it again. You have to remember these old guys' names, and you have to remember these dates was the worst part, memorizing the dates. But my grandfather up in the North Shore would tell things that really happened in the region, but in this like kind of zany storytelling way where it was like engaging, it was fun, it was real, it felt alive, even though it happened in the past. And that's kind of what I'm trying to show, like, hey, these neat things happened here. This is a really fun, engaging story in its own merits. If you happen to learn something, that's on you.
So how did you get into history then?
Yeah.
If you said you didn't like history class.
Is history a hobby or is it a profession?
Well, I mean, now it's a profession. I was interested in history, but not in how it was taught in school. So I did keep following it despite my teachers. I do have a degree in it, but like, what do you do with a history degree? Nothing. There was a long extended gap of me not using it post-graduation. I was like doing everything from like surveying all the way from like Nunavut down to Miami, and then the pandemic happened. You can't survey internationally with little airplanes during a global pandemic. So we all got like mass laid off, 84 of us on a Zoom call. And I ended up back home in New Brunswick. And just to pass my pandemic, I was going on hikes all over the place, which technically I wasn't allowed to because of our zone things. But I did anyways. And I would find out about little tidbits, snippets, and I wanted to learn more, and I had lots of time on my hands, right? So I was thinking back to how my grandfather would tell these stories, so I tried just writing them up, but mixing with like actual research from the style I learned back in academia, and I just posted them online, and that was it. I thought only like 30 friends would enjoy this thing during our pandemic, and instead, they freaking blew up. There was like, like right from the start, and it was like the media was interested, and I got invited on podcasts, like Jordan Bonaparte's nighttime podcasts and different ones like that. And then it snowballed into a newspaper column and stuff like that. And oddly enough, one of the people who pushed me, kind of bullied me actually, into doing something with this is one of your guests a little while ago. And that was John Batt. He runs the at canada.gov.ca Instagram page. And we knew each other in high school, and not even super well, but he's actually got like a really encyclopedic memory. And as soon as this thing started taking off, he phones me. And I was like, how the heck do you even remember my phone number? And he was like, oh man, like I see this thing taking off. Like you got something special here, something unique. You got to do something with it. But you can't call yourself just like Andrew MacLean writer. He's like, it's a generic name, and it just means like random white guy writing about history, which no one wants now. He's like, you need a brand. And I was like, okay, I understand this. What would you suggest for a name? And he was like, what about backyard history? And I was thinking about that, and I was like, that's pretty dumb. But I was like, oh, I'll think about it and come back with something better. And then after 1 week, I couldn't think of anything better. So I phoned him back, and I was like, hey, can I actually use that? And he was like, I barely even remember even saying that. But anyways, that's the story of where the name Backyard History came from. It was from John Batt, actually. And now it is a podcast. It's a newspaper column in like 20 newspapers across the Maritimes every week. 4 books now. And one of those little Bell 5 TV miniseries. So from, a pandemic passion project, it's really kind of taken off.
And are you running out of stories? After 4 volumes?
No, there's so many different things. I get asked that an awful lot. There's so many cool things that happen in our region that we don't know about. It's like a endless font. I think it would say pretty sad things about our region if I was on the verge of running out.
Depends on how far you dig, I guess.
Yeah, you can. I mean, the digging is the most fun part, so I am always good to dig.
And how do you source the stories? Like, how do you find all of these?
Well, we're recording right here in Fredericton, and just slightly up the hill, pretty much in a straight line, we have the Provincial Archives of New Brunswick. And they're really great staff, super friendly and helpful, and that's where I do a lot of the things. So like old newspapers, if I can find them, old diaries are really cool because they have, really unfiltered views on them. Anything from like government reports, there's all sorts of different things like that. And that's the interesting part about the last question about running out. When you start digging into these old dusty documents, one thing really leads to another. It's like pulling on a thread and unraveling a sweater. Like you don't really know where you're going to end up or what's going to become of the thing. So like I'll start looking for one thing and end up completely distracted and on a totally different topic. The next thing you know, and find a cool story.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Awesome. So are the provincial archives like the only way in which you find stories, or like do you run into people like on the I guess like in Fredericton or in other maritime like locations who are just like, I have a great story for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just mentioned the Provincial Archives of New Brunswick because they're right on the street. I live just close to here, so it's just a short walk. And like I've spent so much time in there that I'm dating an archivist now. I just spent so much time there. I wore her down, and we've been dating for a few years now. But other institutions are great. Well, and they also know me from like emailing them. They're pretty quick to respond. So like, the New Brunswick Museum, to different small archives, to the Public Archives of Nova Scotia, the rooms up in Newfoundland. It's usually it's that very Maritimes thing that it's kind of who you know. So you have people that you have at least acquaintanceship with in different archives, and you can be like, hey, can you help me get more information on this image or this event and stuff like that? And then they'll be like, oh, here's another one. But also I've been doing a lot of talks all over mostly New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, and then go in there, you'll find different things, or people have different suggestions. And crowdsourcing stuff can be dangerous, though, because a lot of them are, shall we say, not strictly speaking accurate.
Right.
Or they've the mythology's changed over the years, which is a pretty common, like if you're thinking of that like telephone game when you were kids, one person says thing to another one, and by the time it comes around the circle, it's a totally different story. That's pretty common. So one of the things I really try and do is go as close to the time as possible in different sources, these newspapers and diaries and stuff, to try and almost put readers into the shoes of the people that were there at the time, kind of give a sense of what things were like. So it's not so much me or us looking from, a modern perspective. It's like, how would these people have ended up in this situation or dealt with this situation in their own times, which is kind of tricky to imagine sometimes as you get pretty far away, but I think it's kind of a fun part too.
Nice. Yeah. So Tim and I have read some of these stories and in your books and everything like that. And what's really jumped out to you, Tim? Like, what stories have jumped out at you?
Well, I think Andrew's prepared to tell us a couple of stories.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least, paraphrase them.
Yes. So
Right?
I believe so.
And the first murder in New Brunswick, was that one of them?
Yes.
I think it was.
So, the first murder in New Brunswick, that was a story that's in my third book, Rebellious Women in the Maritimes, which is obviously from the title, focused around women. And that was the last story that I'd come. I'd actually it was really stuck in right before it hit the printers. The first murder in New Brunswick, so obviously the caveat here is this is New Brunswick when New Brunswick existed. So this is, there was a place, after New Brunswick got its name. So that's our little asterisk on the
1780s?
1784.
Yeah.
And so 2 months after New Brunswick got its name, we have our first murder. So we're...
Great start.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we're in what's now called St. John. It was Parr Town, and this was basically a large refugee camp at the time. And we're in these post-Revolutionary War circumstances.
And did we have homicide police back then?
We had, not really. We had local judges.
Homicide.
So this was an interesting one.
No CSI.
Well, it was kind of interesting because it's one of the rare ones you could feel the weight that people at the time would be like, oh, this will be interesting to future historians, right? Mm-hmm. And they were trying their best to be by the book, but by the book in 1784 isn't the same thing as today. Obviously, there's no DNA test, but they tried an autopsy. So that was our first one.
So they tried?
Yeah, well, it was the first one for another 50 years. And it turns out that the jury at the subsequent trial were really upset by the autopsy.
Right.
And juries back then could be very vocal. Like, it was kind of their duty to take on like almost a defense attorney's thing.
Right.
So they could question and argue with the autopsy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they did not like this whole thing about cutting the head open and examining the brain. They were quite offended. So anyways, this is our province's first autopsy. It was also our province's last autopsy for 50 years. So that's how well that went over.
Yeah.
But this also became mythologized over time. So I had heard about the murder, but I'd heard this mythologized version that it was used with a pitchfork. This woman stabbed her husband in the head with a pitchfork.
Wow.
Which is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So this book's about to go to print, and I got a phone call from Bailey Desjardins, an archivist at the Provincial Archives, and she's like, oh, I found this cool document. You really want to come check this out. And this was she had found this old yellowed piece of paper that was just happened to be in the archives, and it was the confession of the murderer, the accused murderer, Nancy Mosley. And it put a very different perspective on there. First of all, this wasn't a pitchfork at all, but it was a ordinary table fork. But again, that went through the head, or not like through the skull, but I think it had inflicted a cut and it got infected, is my reading of this thing. So, but she also found the jury's notes. She found some notes from our very theatrical prosecutor. So it added a whole different case, different, perspective on this. And so Nancy Mosley was a Black woman. She had a very convoluted trip to get to here. Her husband, there's some vague implications. This was an abusive relationship. The murder happened. The jury, which is all white males, turned out to be quite sympathetic to her. And that led to the caustic jury versus prosecutor things that I was just mentioning. And they eventually, the law was very, very tough at the time. Like the way that she was being prosecuted, even though it was acknowledged that this was not intentional, it was in self-defense, their hands were somewhat strung over what they could do, whether or not she was going to be guilty. And of course, the punishment is death. That's really the only thing. So the jury had all of these asterisks. They were like, okay, we acknowledge that we have to call her guilty, but this is self-defense. There should be leniency, blah, blah, blah. But this isn't an option. So it comes to the execution day, the morning of, and Nancy Moseley's getting led to the gallows. And she asked for something called basically it was a weird legal leftover from the 1300s called the benefit of the clergy. So this meant that the person that was asking for this was a clergy member, so a minister, a priest, a reverend. And in these medieval times, that meant that you can't be executed. It was basically a get out of execution free card. So she asked for this, and Nancy Moseley, as a black woman, a former slave, she was extremely unlikely to have actually been a minister. But the way, according to this law that somehow she knew, the way you prove that you were a clergy person is you have to be able to read. So, in front of this crowd of people who had come to watch her be hung, she was handed a Bible. And she was asked to read. And so she read a passage from this Bible. She knew how to read. And with that, she was declared to have been, clearly, she's a member of the clergy, according to this law from the 1300s. And she was let off. She was freed from, she was not executed.
It's like a smart kind of final play by her.
I know, right? Like, what a crazy plot twist from 1784 in New Brunswick.
On the way to the gallows to be hung. And
then they always do in the morning at dawn light too. So this would be in like the blue period that Instagram people love so much, reading the Bible. So so some of the amazing stories that we find in New Brunswick, like we hear that our history's so dry, we don't have anything cool, but like when you dig into it, you find some amazing stuff and amazing people.
Yeah, and that's a crazy story too. I mean, the fact that it could kind of go from like just a scrape by a fork that got infected, basically. Like when she was defending herself against her husband, who was like hitting her with a stick, if I remember correctly. And then over the course of a week, that infection grows and he eventually just dies. And then from there, she's convicted of murder. It's just a crazy tale.
Yeah, that was the interesting things of that confession. It was a long document, but it covers all of these details. Like her husband had asked her for a loaf of fresh bread. She said there's already bread at home, and then he attacked her with a stick, and then she defended herself with a fork, and he got a cut on his face. And it mentioned the details of how they tried to cure him at the time. They put sugar on the wound, and they put grease, like from bacon on it. And I was reading that, and I was like, okay, well, that's not good. Bailey, the archivist, and I both said aloud as we were reading this in the archive, oh, that's not good. But then I was looking into these folk cures, and apparently putting sugar on a wound helps it cure faster, and the grease kind of covers it up so infection doesn't get in.
Is that actually
well, I don't know. That's what was going on. But then it also mentions that someone else tried to rewrap his wound, but the cloth fell on the ground a couple times.
Rookie
and then
mistake.
they kept putting it on. So it's like, well, this probably seems like a good case that infection got in at this point. Like you probably shouldn't have your medical wraps, rolling around on the ground in a refugee camp, right? So there's it's definitely interesting the things that you find there.
Yeah, that's crazy, and that's interesting to learn that it was a last minute addition to the book too, because it seems just such an interesting, like the first murder of New Brunswick. That's a key part of our history, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on to a story out of Fredericton, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So
about a circus.
Yes, a circus and a riot.
A circus that went riot.
Yeah.
There's a story in my first book, Forgotten Stories. Well, I guess it's about like 3 years old now. But the Great Fredericton Circus Riot. So as it turns out, in the 1800s, there were all sorts of riots during circuses. I just thought that the Fredericton one was fun because it was close to home, like literally right here. Because this thing happened every Frederictonian knows where the public library is now and the armories. This would happen right there.
Wow.
So this is July 5th, 1874. So quite a while ago. Circuses were great big events. They came in at I guess it would have been the liquor store at the railway station. They had a parade downtown to draw up attention. You have stuff like music. You have cotton candy was around then. It really brought in big crowds, but it wasn't the most savory crowds. Like there was a lot of heavy drinking at these things. The crowd could be rather lewd and crude and rude, and that was on both sides, both the circus people and the Frederictonians. This one was an equestrian circus. It was the owner of it, Louis B. Lent, had tried doing the animal circus thing. He got bit by a monkey. He gave up on the whole animal thing. So this is horses. So there was posters around town. They were touting things like bareback horse riding. We had a woman who could ride 6 horses at once. They had a family of gymnasts on horses, and they had an Australian. And it doesn't say what this Australian did. It was just on the posters around town. It's like, this guy's from Australia.
He's so far from home.
Yeah. So this thing was set up for 3 days. There was already a sense of acrimony between the town and the circus people from day one, because day one was Sunday. And the Frederictonians did not allow the circus to open on Sunday.
Blasphemous. Yeah,
exactly. So the circus people weren't very happy because they had to do multiple performances a day to make up their money. And there was different altercations between circus people and Frederictonians over things like not getting the correct change erupted in a brawl. Everything erupted in a brawl in the 1800s. A Frederictonian had a shall we say, romantic liaison with a circus worker, which people were not super thrilled about either. So it was just kind of all sorts of different tensions were rising, but everything went off okay until the very last performance on the last day. And even that went off okay. They were packing up, the circus people, to leave when a group of Frederictonians who had been into the bottle somewhat stuck around to heckle them. And a Frederictonian found a dead snake lying there. And he threw it at the circus people who were going about putting their tents up. And this dead snake wrapped around the circus person's neck. And he yelled out, "Hey, Rube," which was a call to arms amongst the circus people. Like, we're under attack. And they all come from running over to fight these Frederictonians. And the Frederictonians retreated and rang the fire bell. And back then, fire obviously is super serious. Frederictonians came from all over, rushed towards the flames to put it out before it engulfs the town, right? So they found this brawl, and the Frederictonians joined in. So we have some of the newspaper reports are pretty crazy. The Daily Telegraph down in St. John wrote, "The riot then assumed formidable proportions. The report of firearms mingled with the cries of the combatants and the groans of the wounded alarmed the whole city."
Wow.
and yes, they had firearms. The circus people fired somewhat randomly into the crowd. They fired 25 shots into the crowd. They wounded 4 people, all of whom were fine. This whole thing, the Montreal Gazette wrote about this. It said that firing at the crowd, instead of intimidating, only served to incense those present.
Oh my gosh.
So, meanwhile, down at City Hall, there's just like, a block and a half away.
Yeah.
The mayor deputizes a bunch of random Frederictonians to try and stop the riot.
What? Random?
Yeah, exactly. And then they go and ride into this thing. And the circus people retreat and they take over the armories. So the armories were in the same location as our current armories.
How are they able to take over the armories?
But they barricaded themselves into the armories.
Oh my gosh.
And the Frederictonians, meanwhile, took revenge by taking all of the circus stuff, like their wagons, their tents, and throwing it in the river. And as far as I'm aware, it was never fished out. So
it was just in the ocean somewhere.
We could just have parts of a circus down by the library.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, they were eventually coaxed out the next day. No charges were laid, incredibly enough. It was kind of a quid pro quo where if you charge the circus people, you'd probably also have to charge a lot of Frederictonians with getting involved in this.
Yeah.
It turns out that out of all the hundreds of people, unbelievably enough, there were no witnesses. So, they just kind of let them go. The circus folded after that, and the fellow that ran the thing, his name was Louis B. Lent. He gave up on the whole circus thing. You know, first he'd been bit by this monkey, then this riot happened, and the Frederictonians threw his thing into the river. So he retreated back to his home of New York City, and he was like, instead of traveling circuses, I'm going to open my own circus. And this circus that he opened in New York City went through a few different name changes, but it still exists today, and it is now the Bronx Zoo.
Wow. Look at that. We've got connections to the Bronx Zoo in New York.
Yeah, so it's like an assist by Fredericton, basically.
Yeah, we contributed directly to that.
In like a pretty offensive way.
Yeah. Like, I don't think they're going to be writing us any thank you letters for driving this guy out of town.
No, I don't think so.
But wow, that's crazy.
I think there's a lot of things you could find if you dredged that river.
The river, yeah. That's that could be someone's job to do that, but I'm sure you could find lots of interesting artifacts.
Well, apparently out in Macadam, the little lake beyond the train station, the train station used to serve people, you know, at night. They have a little kind of counter area and that sort of thing. And the women that worked, they were having some event in town, probably a dance or something, and they weren't going to allow the women who worked there, the waitresses, to leave until they cleaned up. So they took all the china that was dirty, and they threw it in the lake, and they went downstairs and brought new stuff up and put it out, and went upon their way. Well, this was all fine until there used to be prisoners that would come along in the train, and there was a little prison. There's a little prison in that railway. I don't know if you've been through it, but they have a jailhouse and stuff. And the prisoners wanted to go into the lake and cool off because it's very hot on the train that day. So they let them, and they all started coming out with their feet and, you know, all cut up.
Just shredded.
From all the china that's in the lake, and apparently it's still down there in that lake is all this old broken china.
My goodness. Gosh.
I didn't know that. I'm here furiously taking notes for next
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you go to the railway, they tell you all these stories out.
So wait, what lake did you say it
No,
was?
there's a little man-made lake that the railway had right behind the Macadam train station.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Have you been to Macadam train station?
Yes, but I'll now take note to not go into the man-made lake behind me.
Yeah, you can go treasure hunting in there, you know.
That might be good for some interesting artifacts.
Yeah. We wanted to ask you a couple other little random questions. Was there a kangaroo loose in Miramichi once? Is that true?
That one's in my fourth book, which is like mystery themed. So mystery themed in the sense of like following people as they were solving mysteries, if that makes sense. And this one's like super modern. This one's from like 1974. There was a whole wave of reports from Miramichi of kangaroo sightings of all things. It became like those punchlines you get on like early morning radio shows.
Yeah.
But there were so many different reports. I was digging into like, surely there must be something. At the very least, there's some pretty colorful quotes about this thing. Mm-hmm, So don't imagine like a full-size kangaroo, but like a little wallaby. So like a half-size kangaroo.
That's good because kangaroos are scary when they're like 7 feet tall. I wouldn't want to run into one of those things.
I mean, I really wouldn't want to run into a wallaby either, and just do my head in.
Yeah, that's true.
But the story that emerged from it was that Miramichi was there'd be a lot of cargo ships coming and getting stuff, pulpwood and stuff like that. And there had been someone who had a pet wallaby on a boat in the 70s, and it had escaped from this cargo ship. So apparently there was something to these sightings, believe it or not, despite the fact that Miramichi very much became a punchline nationally. Like this really exploded in a way that maybe you'd expect today, but less so in 1974. But this was.
There's no viral videos back then.
Miramichi was kind of the butt of the joke back then.
So it was a wallaby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They just misidentified it.
Yeah. Okay, now I need to look up pictures of wallabies because I don't even know if I know what a wallaby is.
It's kind of a smaller kangaroo, maybe?
Yeah, it's like it looks the exact same, but like half the size.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Because you wouldn't want like a 6-foot-tall actual kangaroo, boxing around.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Yeah. It pretty much just looks like a smaller. Honestly, yeah.
To the best of us.
Yeah. I mean, if you've never seen a wallaby or kangaroo before, like, how are you supposed to know the difference? Just like, oh, it's like a baby kangaroo or something like that.
All right. So, did a kid from Sussex invent the ice cream cone?
I think that there's enough evidence to point to it. So I'm just going by like old newspaper reports and stuff like that, and I found, the Americans will claim that it was invented in St. Louis during the World's Fair. But the thing is that we've got an awful lot of news reports talking about a culinary sensation that happened by accident in Sussex because he was just a kid, a teenager. Walter Donnelly was his name. Had been working a summer job in a bakery, and he screwed up I think it was supposed to be bread, but anyways, it turned into like a small thing. It was right next door to the Sussex Ice Cream Company, so he decided to cut these things up, make them smaller, and then take them next door and see if they could sell them. And that is his story, as attested to from a few different sources. Oddly enough, seemed to be a even more hyper local sensation that he'd based this on, which was in Miramichi. People had used this cone type thing, and they had filled it with jam. Of all things, was like, it only took off him, and he had seen this, and he was like, okay, well, I'm gonna one up this jam thing. I'm gonna try ice cream instead.
Mess up the bread and then try and mimic it. Interesting.
Yeah, it turns out that ice cream cones did a bit better than jam cones.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that. The ice cream, it just kind of works better. Doesn't it? It melts into it. It kind of gives it a whole flavor. Yeah.
So you have a number of stories about famous people who have come to the region, and like noting Marilyn Monroe in one, and Babe Ruth in another. They were frequent visitors, were they?
Babe Ruth certainly was. He was. What is his connection? He was from an orphanage, and he had a minister or some kind of favorite adult figure when he was a kid, and he was from Nova Scotia. So he would come up to Nova Scotia at the height of his fame, largely because of he admired this person growing up. Yeah. But he would be here like all the time, and there's what is it? The McTavish Sporting Goods, I think it is, in Fredericton, has a pretty preposterous looking photo of him in maybe the world's largest fur coat. Just like a
Interesting.
But he would be here all the time, pretty much every corner or things like that. He seemed like a very outgoing and gregarious person. Like there's stories of children playing pickup baseball, and then the world's most famous man. He was the most photographed person in the world in the 1920s. He would just pop. He would be driving past, and he would stop in and just knock a few balls with these kids. And it seems like this happened all over New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. So, and there's loads of photos and different things like that. So it might not even just be our tall tales.
But in 1925, he went deep into the northern woods, I think in Nipisiguit, and he was in a hunting camp there, and he reportedly was trying to wean himself off the bottle.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that was he had been the world's best baseball player, and then he wasn't all of a sudden, and that was supposed to be because he had gotten into a substance abuse problem. And it wasn't just him alone either. There was 8 teammates of his, baseball superstars of the day, that had gone off on this camp reportedly to help him dry out, I guess. But interestingly, a gleaner, a reporter from our Fredericton's local newspaper, the Daily Gleaner, had tracked them down in there, and they found them in this camp. And they talked. Well, Babe Ruth wouldn't talk. He apparently was in a very sour mood, but the others were like somewhat forthright with it. So there was like a little bit of information on this, and then obviously the whole world's press wanted to learn more about. They'd headed out, and they were gone for a couple more weeks before they eventually showed up in Moncton and took the train out of here. So they did kind of a secret.
You're just
northern
filled
tour.
with paparazzi at this point.
Yeah. They said that he was so in such poor shape when he got here that the others were walking to this camp in the woods, but he had to go on a horse.
Oh my
gosh. So he was not doing quite well. He came out leaner and more healthy, I guess we can politely say after that.
At that point, I don't know a lot about Babe Ruth, but did he ever go back to baseball after that?
Yeah, he resumed. He got back to playing again.
Okay.
Yeah, your story said he had his best year afterward.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, one of the best years anyway.
Healing forests.
Yeah, I know. That's like a tourism opportunity right here. It's
exactly.
hello, Tourism New Brunswick.
Yeah, really.
Well, Caitlin and I are both former Daily Gleaner reporters. Right?
Oh, we are, yeah.
And I don't know, the most famous person I ever met in that capacity, I think, was Bo Derek.
I don't even know that.
Well, let's just say she's a 10.
Okay, great. I don't know. Most famous person, probably Justin Trudeau when he was here for the floods in 2018. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, I got to take his photo, which I was pretty starstruck.
Is he a 10?
You know, he's got great hair, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not being sexist. It's her most famous movie. 10.
Okay, I
with
don't.
Dudley Moore. Yeah.
Again.
I'm just being.
It's just going right over my head.
Aware,
no, I'm glad. I'm happy.
Well, I feel like an outlier here. I never reported with the Gleaner, but I was a paper boy.
Oh,
there you go.
You delivered our stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, now I'm a columnist in there, so I still get a kick out of that.
Took it through the door for us. Thank you.
I really don't think they're even paper boys anymore. They're just.
I'm dating myself.
It's like a very kind of vision of the past. No, we don't have any papers. I tried a week or two ago to try and find a paper anywhere and just to pick it up if I didn't have a subscription. Couldn't find it anywhere. But I realized after that they now have them at Chapters every once in a while, so I'll go there after.
Oh, Marilyn Monroe. What was she doing in town? She was in Miramichi.
Yeah, so that was that was like a one-off thing, I think. She was having a really tough year the time when she showed up. She was, again, one of the most famous people in the world, except for this one bad year. She dropped her production company. She wanted more serious roles. She started a new house, and they got labeled as communist in the 1950s. You know how those Americans were.
Yeah.
And then, so she was photographed everywhere all the time. She was in the middle of her divorce with Joe DiMaggio. And then for this 1 week stretch or 10-day stretch, she just kind of disappeared. And then, so there's this hole. And I had gone through, of all things, for different sources trying to look for this, because there's rumors that she showed up in New Brunswick, but I don't know, there's all sorts of weird rumors. And there's one lone news report from this guy from Blackville who said that she had been there for this week, but no other newspapers picked it up. So they must not have been. There's credibility concerns, I guess. They were hedging it with the words local man says.
Right.
Yeah. So I was going through, of all different sources, trying to confirm this. The FBI reports, again, 1950s, Americans' phobia of communism. They were following around her because they thought she was a communist. And they were writing about this trip during this 1 week gap, and they had heard rumors that she was going to the Soviet Union, so they were all freaked out.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then they had gotten an informant to go speak to her to try and figure out this mystery trip, and it was not the Soviet Union, but it was to some unknown place in Canada, and they were like, okay, we don't care anymore. We're satisfied.
That's fine, yeah.
So, just combining these different news reports, she had apparently gone to Blackville to stay in a cabin. She had traveled up here, most famous woman in the world, dressed as a boy's clothing, her hair up and stuff like that. She had been, back when she was Norma Jean for the Marilyn Monroe thing, she had been quite a passionate and avid and skilled, apparently, fisher. It was kind of something that you don't picture the Hollywood starlet, but she had a life before that. And she was apparently a very skilled fisher person. But then, much like the Babe Ruth story of him returning revived, after this gap here, she returned to New York City, and she was branding herself kind of as the new Marilyn Monroe. And she started with a new management team. She started trying to get these more bigger roles and stuff like that, and kind of returned rejuvenated. And her career exploded into the real peaks that we know of.
I'm realizing that this is a pattern.
Yeah.
All these famous people, they're going through a hard time. They come to New Brunswick. Again, tourism NB needs to capitalize on it.
Leave your troubles behind.
Yes, exactly. Are you going through a tough time? Anyone in Hollywood, you can come to New Brunswick. There you go.
All right, I'm going to get my wife to listen to this part
the segment.
Because she asked me, at least once I recall, was we were driving on the highway about Charlie Lake, and why did they call it Charlie Lake? And I, to be honest, I didn't really know. I probably made up an answer. I just assume
it's just like a random person.
I probably made up an answer. But
story.
But now I know it's named after a pirate.
Oh.
Yeah.
And there's something buried.
Oh.
Beside Charlie Lake.
Interesting.
And so Andrew's going to tell us.
Yeah, Charlie Lake, what do you even say it's close to? So it's kind of in the middle of...
Well, it's by Meductic.
Okay, so Meductic area. Small lake. It's not super, other than like a visible sign on the highway.
The other way towards the border from Meductic, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, so back in 1800s, when this was like a very wild area, very isolated, there was one lone man and his tiny dog who lived by Charlie Lake, and his name was Charlie. And he had been, it's kind of a weird phrasing, but he was a retired pirate.
Retired. But most of them don't make it to retirement.
Yeah, exactly. And there's not really like a statute of limitations on piracy. So he may have been retired, but he was still wanted, and the government would have loved to execute him for piracy, because that serves as an example to the others. Instead, he was living peacefully with a little farm and a shack by the lake, which now bears his name. There was always rumors that he had buried a pirate treasure there. So I was digging into this thing. The whole lake had been basically dug up at different times. People were... Right. Brunswickers really can get wired up with pirate treasures. But I had found some old interviews with him with... what was his name? John Glazer. He was a senator at the time. And he knew Charlie and had written stuff down. But apparently Charlie's treasure, this is very disappointing for New Brunswickers, but it was buried in Spain. And Charlie had once launched an expedition with a bunch of St. John businessmen to go and try and find this treasure that had been buried in Spain. Yeah, okay. So they took a boat, they rented a boat, they went over, they were on the coast. Charlie had some problems remembering where it was. And then when they found the proper location, one of those like small frontier towns that just pop up. Yeah, one of them was on top of his treasure thing. So the New Brunswickers are like, man, what are we going to do? Let's just like figure out our plan here. And the Spanish authorities saw this boat loitering, and they were like, oh, it's a pirate ship. So they raided it and arrested all of them. But Charlie hid in a wood pile and eventually managed to make his way back home to his lake.
In a wood pile? What happened to the St. John businessman?
Probably still in Spain.
I
don't know.
He can't.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, kind of a silly story. So he went back to his lake, and it ended up bearing his name. But he was like, it's often told as a ghost story, because apparently he was quite haunted by the things he had done in his past. Like they would come to him in the night. Like I don't think Charlie was doing too good with coming to terms with his past. So he was probably not super happy by his lake. So anyway, sorry to disappoint New Brunswickers, but there's probably not a treasure by that particular lake. But there is a cool story behind its name.
No treasure, but maybe a ghost is what you can tell your wife.
Charlie got the lake, but he didn't get to spend the money.
Yeah, he got a dog too. That's what you said, right?
He survived the piracy, so
that's true.
That's probably the bar for a lot of pirates.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, you don't hear about a lot of retired pirates. They're usually just alive or dead.
All right, so now we got to get into the dead people, right? Like ghost stories.
The ghost stories.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we've got a few ghost stories, right?
Of course. Well, we were talking to Will Pacey like a month ago or something,
Right.
and he told us the story of the
Anglican church.
And there was the friendly wife, the first wife of gosh, I can't remember who, but yeah.
Bishop?
Anyway,
No, yeah, Medley.
Bishop
Medley.
Medley.
Bishop Medley. Yes,
Bishop Medley,
exactly. Yeah.
Caitlin's not from Fredericton. She doesn't. These don't rattle off the
You're really
tongue.
getting called off.
Yeah, I'm getting called out. Yeah.
All right, so can we maybe lower the blinds and turn off the lights?
Light some candles.
Go get that salt
Candles.
lamp in the office, and we'll.
Yeah, we'll pretend
Ouija
that
board.
it's not like 3:30 in the afternoon.
Okay. So, what ghost story do we want to start with? So, there's the one I always know it as Salamanca House, but I guess it's Boyce House, perhaps, down just off Waterloo Row. The huge house there, and it had been a residence for UNB for a number of years, probably 50s, 60s, that sort of thing range. And then it became kind of a private, I think they turned it into apartments or something. But it's long been identified as having a fairly friendly ghost, as ghosts go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us all about this.
So one of these stereotypes about Maritimers, which is absolutely true, is that they love ghost stories. I don't know I've never seen a ghost myself, so my opinions are on the things, but I know that people love them.
He's a non-believer.
But the problem is that I need to, in order to report on them, I need at least some sort of source that I can rely on, which is these ghosts seldom sit for interviews. So, you have to find something with a lot of stories about it in order to hold up some. And this one in Fredericton at Boyce House or Salamanca House certainly had a lot of stories. I first heard about it in Carol Spray's legendary book, The Will o' the Wisp. She talks about how back in the 1950s and I think 1960, there was a bunch of students there for UMB. It was dorms. They would hear things like the piano playing in the night or and there was a Don. He was telling these guys to quiet down. Like, who was playing a piano at this hour? Like, come on, guys. And he went down and there was nothing. And then he called a house meeting, and everyone had weird experiences with the ghost that weren't exactly negative. Like they'd, a mysterious figure of a gray lady would pull up the sheets on them at night if they had fallen off. Like, stuff like that.
Spooky.
Well, that's handy, actually.
Yeah, helpful ghost.
I was like, okay, well, that's strange. Let's see if there's anything else. And it turns out that there was a ridiculous number of reports from over the decades of people having different encounters, like from right up until, the early 2000s, you would find things. Wow. So just people who had lived there. Even, I remember going to a house party and this girl telling me that she had rented a place in there and there was a ghost in her place. And I was like, okay, well, someone's had a bit too much to drink. But it turns out that lots of people had said that.
And I've been in the place too, but I didn't spend enough time, I guess, to see one. But
apparently she was actually quite helpful for people that drank excessively. Like there was reports that students would be stumbling back and not make it to their beds, like they'd pass out on the lawn, and then she would help them back up to the stairs. The ghost would.
Convenient.
So, yeah, right.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Right. Yeah.
But like furniture moving around, and the weird thing I thought I saw in your story was about how she folded clothes and hung out pants. And,
she would just tidy up after the students.
Did some laundry.
I want that ghost in my house.
Yeah, it got picked up sometimes by like American headlines, and it was some of the most dramatic stuff. It was
but she was looking for something, and that's what this Dawn told the story of, right?
She was after a letter.
Yeah.
And she'd even told these students, she being the ghost, remember, that there was a secret safe. It was hidden behind a wall in the kitchen, and they tore out a wall looking for the safe, and they did find it, and she had, given them the combination to get in. But the letter that she was after wasn't there. So apparently she's still on a quest for this letter, and in the meantime is folding and helping drunk students to their beds.
Okay. And we think that's May Boyce.
Yeah, so
And Boyce, of course, explain who that is.
so Boyce, every Frederictonian knows,
Yes.
so May Boyce would be the wife of Walter Boyce. Walter Boyce is, of course, the person who Boyce, our beloved Boyce Farmers Market, is named after.
Yes.
So he had donated the land to that. He came from nothing. He was like an orphan who had landed here. He was farming turnips locally. That didn't make much money. He figured out that if you grew turnips locally and bought up other people's cheap turnips and sold them in Montreal, you made a lot more money than selling them locally. And this became...
Make a note of that, Caitlin.
Right, yeah.
It became the basis of a turnip empire. But he...
Out of Fredericton.
Yeah, but he didn't come over as an orphan alone. He had a younger sibling who was not... I guess what would you say, who would have mental health problems, I think, but he also had, what would you say, really bad luck through life. So he had gotten, physically injured on the job, had, romantic children dying, just everything bad that could happen to this person did. And he was cared for by May Boyce. She was kind of like a matronly, a motherly figure. And when she and Walter passed away in close succession, this sibling was still living alone at Boyce House, and someone was still caring for him. Apparently, he would spend his days kind of arranging the flowers at the Christchurch Cathedral and then going there. So the story goes that May Boyce continued caring for him after her death, and apparently continues to care for anyone else who happens to come to the house.
Oh, interesting.
So she apparently has a fond spot for young males because of her, past caring for this guy, if you're into the ghost side of things.
Interesting. So where did you say this house was again?
So this is just, I don't know, probably like
At
a
the
5
end
minute
of
drive from
Waterloo
me.
Row. Just,
okay.
just as you head into...
Is it by Morale
the
Park?
Lincoln-
Yeah, so just past that kind of nightmarish
past.
intersection, there's a large gray house with a bright red roof and a red turret.
Oh, yes, I know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to miss. I mean, it does certainly look like something that would be inhabited by a
Yes,
ghost.
it does. So does someone does someone own that and live in that, or can you rent out like little places to stay just because?
Yeah,
Well, it has
it's
been apartments for...
I think it's still apartments, I'm pretty sure. So.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
That's a cool place to have apartments in.
But apparently, what was it? Jackie Webster, the journalist, she had lived there. And Jackie Webster being Jackie Webster, she decided to investigate this and communicate with the ghost. And she did so with a Ouija board. And according to Jackie Webster, the ghost did not much care for this. This normally friendly ghost reacted with a great deal of hostility towards people trying to contact her. I think that the quote that Jackie Webster said in an article was that it was like as if I had angered a good friend.
Oh.
So normally she's friendly. She'll help you out with your laundry. But just don't try and use the Ouija board type things.
So what happened to Jackie?
She moved out eventually.
Okay.
She survived. It wasn't that malevolent.
She took the covers off instead of pulled them up. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know. So that was at least a ghost story that you could find some different sourcing on and stuff like that. Some of them take different turns. My favorite ghost story is one in the first book, and it's called The Spectre of Rexton. So this was some young, it like has all of the tropes. There's like young kids who on Halloween night, 1930, they see a ghost on the road between Rexton and Rishabukto. The people in the 1930s were really, really into ghosts. So instead of it scaring people, a whole bunch of people came from far and wide. So there were other reports of this ghost on the road. A bunch of Moncton teenagers decided, Scooby-Doo style, to investigate this thing. Oh. And because there was also reports of while they were seeing a ghost, so this ghost had some suspiciously human attributes like boots and winter clothing. Okay. So they chased it through the woods and they managed to get close enough that it lost a sheet, like with 2 holes cut into it.
What?
And the story that emerged was that this ghost story, this is the 1930s, remember, so Prohibition era. This was a distraction set up by rum runners in Kent County who were moving in booze on the coast, and they were having this ghost run around, so people would call the cops. Cops would get distracted, and they would be, moving in this booze to smuggle into Canada.
That's crazy, but also kind of smart.
works. I know,
It worked.
right?
I don't know,
Like,
some convoluted way that it worked. But
I know, it's just like checking off all of our maritime tropes.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, we got it.
it.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. Wow. So clearly there's just so many stories in the Maritimes that you've looked into. You've got, again, like the 4 books worth of it at this point. So are you working on a book 5 or?
I am working on a book 5.
Oh, nice.
I am in the final editing stages of it, which is the least fun part of writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll look for that one in October, I think.
Oh, that's pretty soon. Yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about these book things are, it's quite a saga. There's all these other things that I was talking about that I did, like a Backyard History podcast and the little TV show and even the newspaper column, but I never really wanted to do any of these. What I really wanted to do was have a book. So back in 2023, I'd had at least some growth on this. And I was sending away my manuscript to different publishing companies. I sent them to 27 different ones and got rejected by 27. And they kept telling me there's no appetite for Atlantic Canadian books. And I was like,
they were wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there is, because I have like this column, this, social media following. Mm-hmm. So I decided to just do the whole thing myself. So we're talking like the writing, I had to learn how to lay out a book in InDesign. I had to learn computer skills for this. That's crazy. I was so mad. And I sent it to the printers. There was like a whole bunch of delays with the whole thing. And then I think it was December 13th, 2023. I finally got this pallet of books. And it was like, I was quite despondent by this point. It's very expensive to get books printed. It was really too late for Christmas. So I just kind of made a quick post. I was like, I will deliver these things in person. Just, you can buy them online. And I thought I would... I thought I'd sell like 20 of my 1,000 books to like family and friends, and that would be it. But everyone went like nuts trying to get a hold of these books, and this whole thing sold out in only 10 days.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I would like to say to those 27 publishers, there is an appetite for maritime stories. Thank you very much.
So are you still self-publishing them then? Or?
Yeah, I thought like... Well, it's kind of a long story, but the Canadian publishing industry is very slow, and also, can I say exploitative? I'll just say exploitative to the way things work for authors and publishers, for who gets the money and who does the work.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty happy with my relationship. I still do the layout, the design, everything like that myself. It's since gotten faster and easier since that first one. Yeah. And that first book that I came out with, like I'm right now putting together, finalizing a second edition of that, because this thing that no one said they wanted is about to reach national bestseller status.
Nice. Congrats.
So, thank you.
That's awesome. How many copies do you have to reach for like national bestseller status?
A lot when you're mailing them yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
You do too. I mean, I have like the warehouse that I use is up a flight of stairs. I think I'm gonna have like the meatiest thighs from carrying these cases of books up and down.
And you know what? You've got the whole mailing experience from being a paper boy all the way back. Yeah.
Yeah, it came in handy after all these years.
Yeah, exactly.
And where do we buy your books, Andrew?
You can buy them. The best thing for any like artist or local craft person or authors to do is to buy them as directly as possible. And you can buy them from my website, backyardhistory.ca, and you can get an autographed copy from there, delivered to you courtesy of Canada Post.
Awesome. And where else can we find you on like social media and things like that?
Everything's under Backyard History. It's so just search that name and it will bring me up. There's not any other Backyard Histories out there. So Facebook page or website or just all the things. It's all under the same name.
Awesome. All right.
Well, I did buy your books, and
Yes.
I would like you to sign
Yes.
a couple of them for me,
Of course.
if you don't mind. I have a pen for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we do it on air so people believe that it's
People
actually
can
real?
hear the...
And I'd like to kind of, if you don't
There
mind,
you go.
if you don't mind, I'd like to dictate it a bit.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know, something like, to my new best friend, Tim.
Yeah. It's great.
You are an
think this is
amazing
your other.
podcast interviewer.
To my new best
Something like
friend.
that. That's perfect.
Yeah, that's good. So I'll get him to do that 4 times because I have 4 books, right?
My
But
one
that's the
book.
thing on the.
But I noticed one of them was signed. Is that yours?
I don't.
One of them was signed.
They should all be. Oh.
Oh, did you sign all of them?
Just signing
Yeah,
twice.
so that's the whole thing. You can also,
there you
just
go.
like Tim here, if you order them from the website, you can request in a box there that I write something on
The
them.
book just fell down.
Yeah, that
You
one's
can also
damaged.
write that Tim's an amazing person on your own book.
Oh, I see. Oh, you did sign them. I'm sorry.
Well, now I feel
thought
left
only
out.
one of them
See,
was signed.
I got mine from as a gift. I don't know where it came from.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
my friend didn't order it from your website.
I see. Well, all right.
Yeah.
I have at least one with a little more description.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I also see. Do you sell these books at like the market? Do you have any market pop-ups or anything?
Yeah, I show up at different markets and just do in-person selling a lot. Actually, so this is being recorded in the middle of July on a very warm day, and I spent the whole friggin' afternoon before I came here looking for Christmas markets
Oh my
all
gosh.
over the province, and I'm applying for different ones of those. So those are, these are
They're good
local
Christmas
history
gifts.
books. This is what everyone's dad wants for Christmas.
It's true. It's true.
It's as unusual as a way as it is to spend the July thing. You'll find me everywhere around all through November and December in every conceivable market in every small town and big
Nice.
city in the province.
That's great. Yeah, it's a good way to
There you go.
advertise.
If you're looking for a dad gift, you've got an
Or a
idea
mom
now.
gift, or like anyone gift, really. Yeah, it's a good gift. I feel like it's just kind of a good Christmas gift. It's kind of one of those things. Yeah.
I'm gonna record all these for ad purposes. These endorsements.
Dives deep into maritime history with a sprinkle of humor and well-researched history. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. And thanks for sharing some of your stories with us and some of your behind-the-scenes process. And we really enjoyed having you on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Thank you for listening to Soundbite, a production of Porter O'Brien and CHSR 97.9 FM. Special thanks to our podcast host, CHSR, our sound editor, March Rojas Velasquez, as well as Adam Porter, who provided our theme music. You can find all our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Music under Soundbite. You can also follow and support us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Soundbite Podcast.